In this video, John Anderson from Australia is interviewing Victor David Hanson about anti-Semitism in America. He begins discussing what is going on in Australia, the anti-Semitism going on in Australia, which is quite shocking. And it's very important for us to have our pulse, our finger on the pulse of anti-Semitism as it's playing out in different countries, in Australia and in America. And they do a fine job over here discussing it.
Anti-Semitism has been on the rise in Europe. Clearly, it has been in Britain. It was a massive problem for the Labor Party prior to the last election. And it has here too in Australia. And we had horrendous scenes, horrendous really. The Sydney Opera House, which is no greater symbol of Australia than the Opera House, lit up at the request of the New South Wales Premier, appropriately with the Israeli flag, in my view. And then you had Palestinian supporters basically rallying and reflecting what are nothing short of Nazi views, really. Gas the Jews.
Yes.
I mean, how incredibly inappropriate. We've since had some of our green or left-wing politicians being highly ambivalent in their support for Israel. And we've seen Islamic leaders, extremist leaders, celebrating, openly saying, I'm crying with joy for all of this. To what extent do you think hatred of Israel or the belief that Israel is a colonizing power is used as cover for something that's as ancient as time, simple loathing of one race?
Yes.
And it seems to me that the very people who scream most about racism and the horrors of it and march in the streets with BLM and so forth are the most ambivalent about this particular form of hatred.
It is, and it's anti-Semitic, and you can even see it in more insidious. I mean, I support helping Ukraine, but you didn't see any major politician on the left say, we have to stop the cycle of violence in Ukraine, and violence never solved anything, and the Ukrainians better listen to us and stop this cycle of violence. They don't have a right to retaliate. It's only Israel that we give those lectures to. And if anybody said to Ukraine, what's the cycle of violence solved? Why are you tit for tat? The same type of dialogue they're using with Israel. Everybody would think they're insane, and yet they get a pass by that attitude toward Israel. I think part of the problem is that, and I'm speaking that we're probably in roughly the same age group. When we grew up in the West, anti-Semitism was more of a kind of a right-wing carryover from the 20s or 30s, where people said, the Rothschilds are running the world, and it was easily identified, and it was discredited because of World War II, etc. But this is new, the last 30 years. This is coming, from the left, but it's also coming from the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that tells me that they feel they are exempt because they feel they're marginalized people. And according to the doctrine of anti-racism, nobody who is not white can be guilty of being a racist. So they embolden themselves. And so when we look at what the Black Caucus is saying, or what Black Lives Matter with their poster glorifying a hang glider coming down to kill Jewish children, that's a poster that they had out. Or an African-American professor at Cornell today, one at Stanford where I work, there's this idea that you can say these things on the left and there will be no consequences because you are a post-George Floyd woke victim yourself. And of course, anti-Semitism is anti-Semitism. So I think there's a very radical change, and it's going to affect, because they're sounding so heartless, and as you say, so semi-fascist or indeed Nazi-like, that people are repulsed by that. And they were repulsed by the things in New York. They were repulsed by the thing in Sydney. And I think the West in general, and you see it in France especially, the government has outlawed. I think people are saying multiculturalism doesn't work. It's different than multiracial. We are tolerant of races, but we have to have one common culture. Our universities, these demonstrations, they show that immigration that is non-meritocratic, illegal, but not diverse, all from one region does not work, especially given the lack of assimilation and integration. And they're saying something is toxic in higher education. Maybe we should not give them tax-exempt status for their endowments. Maybe we should get the government out of student loans. We've got to do something because this country is not sustainable with that level of anti-Semitism and hatred. So I see the reaction to it is I'm very optimistic because I think people are now saying, yes, they're anti-Semitic, but the problem is even deeper than that. And they showed their true colors when they were on the side of death. They were nihilist and they were basically celebrating the slaughter of children. And when you get to that point of hatred, something is terribly, fundamentally, systemically wrong with these institutions that allows that. And I think people are going to make some changes. And I think they're very careful. I think the squad, we have these radical Islamicist congresswomen. I think they're very careful now what they're saying. They've got a furious pushback, and they know they have no support for it. When you have a left-wing African-American mayor in New York, Eric Adams, and he sounds like he's an Israeli now, and he's damning the hatred and the anti-Semitism in his city. Granted, he has a large Jewish population, but there are people now on the left saying, this is embarrassing. And these people really do hate Jews. They say they hate Israelis, and the anti-Semitism is no longer some crazy guy on the right that's, in the Stone Age. These are left-wing, sophisticated elites, professionals, and they're ungracious. We have so many first and second generation people from the Middle East, and they come over here, and we've been a very generous host to them. We give them prosperity and security and freedom. And yet, when you look at what they're doing, and I say they because there's thousands of them protesting on behalf of these Hamas killers, you want to say to them, stop. Do you think that you could go to Gaza and you could protest and say, I disagree with Hamas? They kill you. You think you could be gay in Gaza? They kill you. You think you could be a lesbian in Iran? They kill you. You think you could be trans on the West Bank? They probably kill you. And to come over here and flee that tyranny and beg us to allow you to be part of our body politic and then to voice support for the very things that you fled is incoherent. And so a lot of people you hear that all the time. If you hate this country or you hate everything, why don't you go back where you want to be and join in with the jihad, and you'll have no freedom and you'll have no security and no prosperity. But to take advantage of all that we offer you and then to damn your host and to damn your host's allies, it's Western. It's so incoherent that it's really counterproductive for the left. I mean, they say apartheid, when you go to Israel, 21% of the population is Arab. And out of that Arab, I think 12%, 11 to 12% are Muslim. They have political parties, they vote, they have freedom of speech, they're prosperous. I've been to many of their villages, cities in northern Israel, and compare it to anywhere else in Jordan or Egypt, Syria, Iraq, there's nothing like it. No Arab citizen anywhere in the Middle East has the freedom to express himself and to vote and to worship as he feels, as they do in Israel. And yet we're told by American leftists that these people suffer under apartheid. Everybody knows it's a lie. So lies don't have any currency finally because they're divorced from reality. And I think everybody understands that. And they're getting angry about people who enjoy our hospitality and our comfort and our security and then champion and praise these totalitarian systems that are cruel to people, and yet they lecture us on morality, and yet they're defending a system not just that is hypocritical, but they would never go back to. They fled those systems. And that's what's really aggravating to people.
Well, I like his prognosis. I hope he's correct, Victor Davis Hanson. And that is that even the left is getting tired of the hypocrisy and the lies that are being espoused by all of these extremists. That would be good for toning down at least the anti-Semitism, or at least preventing it from having the tremendous and loud voice that it currently has.